Hey there, and welcome back to the GLORIO blog's newest podcast, Legend of the GLORIO Heroes, where we're gonna continue our journey amongst the Sea of Stars, that being watching the original Legend of the Galactic Heroes OVA and talking about it for your pleasure.
I mean, are you sure it's over the next week we're not gonna start a new podcast that'll be newer than this one?
You know,
After we did the Fooly Cooly Gaiden episode,
you're
anything's
right.
possible.
You're right. We at the GLORIO blog are constantly looking to expand the GLORIO network.
Yep.
We are courting any and all deals that anybody might want to make to be a part of the GLORIO network.
Give us money.
Yes, give us money. In all seriousness, if you're listening to this once again, yes, welcome back to episode 2.
Earlier than we stated it would be.
Yes. As a result of some scheduling issues with the rest of with the rest of the GLORIO network, including us, Legend of the GLORIO Heroes will be recording early this week. Unfortunately, that probably means y'all are gonna have to wait like
2 or 3 extra, 2 or
3 weeks for the episode after that. But we're all figuring it out. But in the meantime, I'm G, your host for our journey amongst the Sea of Stars, and with me is none other than GLORIO blog stalwart Iro.
Yeah, hi, still here.
It's good to have you back.
It's good to be back.
That's why we call you stalwart, because you can be relied upon.
Relied upon to say, hey, I'm gonna be gone. Can we record early?
It happens. That just increases the drama. When in the next big battle, I'm like, if only Iro were here. We could fight back
while my ship is being destroyed, and I'm dropping a picture of my beloved down.
Yes. But in all seriousness, if you're listening again, thank you.
We already have a couple of comments, which is wild to me.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Weird, obscure, recap podcasts.
And as much as we joke, I think that really speaks to how badly some people do want to hear other people talk about Legend of the Galactic Heroes, even if their takes are not necessarily the most informed ones or the best ones. They're still willing to listen to us, and that's awesome. So thank you.
Yeah.
I
mean, I've always heard tons of people are, like, oh, Legend of Galactic Heroes is so good, and then I would see that's super long and say, well, I'm never going to watch that. And those people probably never get the chance to talk about Legend of the Galactic Heroes.
I mean, that's the thing, right? It's both that Legend of the Galactic Heroes is old, like many anime are. Mm-hmm. It's also very longer than most anime. So I get it. And also, it's very good. So,
yes,
I definitely understand, that desire to talk about it with anybody who's willing to listen. So, we've gotten comments, on our YouTube and the blog already. That's pretty neat.
Yeah, I might have to revive our YouTube.
Yeah,
that's missing like 15 podcasts at this point.
Well, that's on Gel. So, we love you, Gel. Yeah, so hey, we love it. The only thing we'll ever say is we appreciate the passion, but do your best to keep spoilers to a minimum. Yes, we've watched DNT, the TV series remake, but other than that,
assume we know nothing.
Yeah, assume we know very little. If we make weird, highly inaccurate predictions, or our speculation is wildly off the mark, just let us be wrong. It'll make our reactions all the better in the long run.
Yeah.
So, speaking of our reactions, how about we just get into it? To this week, we are going to be talking about episodes 4, 5, and 6. That are 4, Empire's Afterglow, 5, the Kastrop Rebellion, and 6, the Knights of the Rose.
Rosen Ritter.
Yes. So, let's just kick it off. Iro, what did you think of episode 4?
So this is the episode that's like the flashback of how Reinhard and Kircheis met, right?
Yeah,
as children.
Yeah. We get an insight into Reinhardt's childhood and the events that would make him the man he is today,
After,
for better or worse.
after he gets promoted to fleet admiral, controls half of the whole Empire's fleet now.
Yeah, and some generals don't like that. They're pretty mad that this young hotshot, kid is commanding half the fleet.
Mm-hmm.
But
The petticoat admiral, I believe
yes,
they
yes,
referred to him.
the nickname for Reinhard for being accused of rising through the ranks on his sister's close connection to the emperor.
Yeah, so Kid Reinhardt is a firecracker.
Kid Reinhardt is a handful.
He's a
He
boy.
he is a madman. It is
I think we were watching. Brought up Dio Brando in early
yeah,
JoJo,
yeah,
or
right.
Cool Shock BT. Like this crazy child who will slap people and pull guns on grown men and beat his classmates with rocks.
Yes, yes. Reinhard quickly reveals that, young Reinhard was basically a slightly less murderous Dio Brando. And I love it. I truly love it. It's the thing I needed to see from Reinhard. I
Yeah,
needed to see a version of Reinhard that was not so invincible, so implacable,
right.
so seemingly stoic and perfect in every way.
Like
And
this is like a genuine character flaw
yeah,
that he is so impulsive and
reckless and short-sighted in many ways. He is so prideful. He is so quick to jump, and he's so quick to jump to violence as his first option
mm-hmm.
that I find very interesting, because also in this episode is him meeting Kircheis as a child and the two hitting it off. Well, hitting it off in the sense of Reinhard going up to Kircheis and being like, Siegfried,
your name sucks.
What a what a basic bitch name. I'm gonna call you Kircheis. And Kircheis basically sticking around with Reinhard because Reinhard has a hot sister.
Yeah.
And what better motivation to be friends with a person?
Indeed.
And as much as we joke, though, this episode is great for not only fleshing the two out, but showing how important Kircheis is to Reinhard. How truly invaluable Kircheis is. Because Kircheis quickly reveals himself to be Reinhard's moderating element, his humanizing element.
Yeah.
Without Kircheis, Reinhard probably would have gotten killed at that party.
Yep, he probably just shot.
Or he probably would just been, straight up shot that noble.
Beat up by a gang of thugs or something.
Yeah. And so just to clear things up, basically this episode starts off with Reinhard's family moving in to the house next to Kircheis. He still has the von Musel surname before he inherits the von Lohengram surname.
Yeah.
And yes, we get a montage of their childhood, the good, the bad, and the weird, and we finally see what is kind of Reinhard's defining childhood moment, and that's when his sister
is sold to the Kaiser as a concubine.
Yes. Anaros is basically sold to the Kaiser, and Reinhard does not take this very well, to say the least.
Indeed.
Understandably so. And we begin to see the foundation of Reinhard's philosophy, that even though he has been raised and trained and born under, this inherently monstrous system, Reinhard himself very much does not approve of it. We get a lot of, what are these stupid nobles doing, having, throwing balls and kidnapping hot sisters when there's a war out there. There's a war that's been going on for over a century, and this is how the nobles spend their time.
I think that it was actually really nice to see this after watching DNT, which kind of just has the "oh no, my sister is gone" as his only motivation.
Yes.
Whereas getting to this, and he stumbles into the party, the ball afterwards, and there is the moment of, aren't we supposed to be at war? But these people are just wallowing in extravagance.
Yeah, it's great because you know I'm glad Reinhardt is saying this stuff. Obviously, I need to see his words translate into actions, but
Yeah.
for now, to know that there is at least an aspect of Reinhardt that very much recognizes the hypocrisy of the Empire means that I'm already a lot more inclined to, if not root for him, then sympathize with his motivations.
Yeah. Even if
And
he's shooting guns into the air.
he shot out a lamppost, right? That's
Oh, did he shoot out a lamppost?
it's not. Yeah, he shot a lamppost, and then Kircheis bailed him out.
Yeah, but then they're in the field, and he's like, I will.
Oh yes, and then he shoots the moon because
I will
like
become greater.
Right, where Reinhard talks about how he's going to join the military not only to get back his sister, but because to quote him, also I shall have the universe.
I will gain power.
And I'm always a little wary of the plot device of I'm going to work within the broken system to fix the broken system because with that inherent implication is if you're going to work within the broken system means being in some ways complicit with the broken system. And in the same way that I'm sure I am sure there were slave owners in America that were better than the worst slave owners, right? Like I'm sure there were slave owners out there that were perhaps decent and kind to their slaves, but also you still own slaves.
Yes. I've been on like tours of plantations where they say like, oh yeah, there were rooms like dedicated to doctors or whatever, but also you still had descendants from slaves.
Also, dog, that doctor was still a slave or something, right? It's like, and so that's the aspect of this that I am very curious to see how Reinhardt's how his choices and actions will define his belief that he can reform this system. And I'm not saying that if you desire to reform a system,
that you must burn it down.
Right, that you must burn it down, but I will need to see if Reinhardt is truly capable of reforming the Empire. But for now, I'd say this episode does a much better job of introducing Reinhardt and speaking to his motivations than the original episode, or not the original, but the episode in D&T did.
Right. I agree. I really enjoy seeing more of it because that's what we really need to really view these two as equals.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of like how, in some ways, Iro, would you agree that of the first 3 episodes we watched, episode 3 was the best?
Yeah.
Because it's, even if it doesn't have a lot of action, it's the one where we get to see Yang truly put his principles and ideals on the line and argue for them. And we get to see
a bit of that here for Reinhardt, but not quite on the same.
Right. But it's a very long show, and I think Reinhardt will have many opportunities to either impress or disappoint us. We will. I'm not. I don't think Legend of the Galactic Heroes is so trite that it's going to go for the old. Oh, Reinhardt, you said you were going to reform the system, but now you've become part of it. I don't know if it's necessarily going to go in that direction, but I do think that if Reinhardt is if he's so adamant about how he's going to work in the system to fix it, I suspect that some of his ideals will definitely be put on the line. And
I would hope so.
Whether he can back it up or not, even when the going gets tough, that remains to be seen.
Yeah. And then episode 5 happened.
Yeah, I get it to episode 5. The Kastrop Rebellion.
Kircheis. He is dispatched by Reinhardt to put down the Kastrop Rebellion.
Mm-hmm. Which is being led by Space Caesar, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, the way
Kastrop.
Yeah, the way he acts is more like Space Caligula, but
yeah,
basically we got some fucking space robe shit up in here, which is a very funny thing to contrast with DNT's portrayal of the Kastrop
Where he's
Rebellion,
just
which was,
another like spaceman.
well, he was like kind of like Renaissance inspired, like
Sure.
Imperial fop, very like
Yes.
very extravagantly dressed, but this dude is just straight up like fucking
Wearing
lounging
togas and
on a chair with a toga, getting fanned and fed grapes by ladies and shit. It's a hell of an image.
It's a lot.
It's a lot to take in, but
apparently he really had hoarded a lot of money because he purchased a planetary defense system from Fezan.
Mm-hmm. And not only was it a planetary defense system from Fezan, but it was one that Fezan apparently got from the FPA, because
it's like the same technology that protects the FPA homeworlds.
So, some stuff going on there,
That's really sketchy.
Yeah. I wonder, who knows how that could possibly play out down the line. But yes, so we are in a situation where Maximilian Kastrop and his 3,000 strong fleet are holed up on his planet with the special planetary defense system they have, and Kircheis is given a fleet of 2,000 and must somehow quash this rebellion. And in many ways, I kind of like this because
it's very parallel to like Young's situation.
Yes. In many ways, this Kastrop Rebellion is actually kind of a mini Iserlohn, because conventional military wisdom states that if you want to be victorious in a siege, you kind of need at least twice the numbers, because defending is always going to be way easier than attacking. But in many ways, this is also a political play, I think, for Reinhard. Is this the episode where Reinhard assembles his admirals?
Yes. His squad.
Yes, we are also introduced to Reinhard's, his 4 lieutenants squad. Except it's not 4; it's like 10, and the only names I can remember are Ruenthal and Mittermeier. So
I have some pictures here. Let's see here. Vice Admiral August Samuel Wallen, Vice Admiral Cornelius Lutz, Vice Admiral Carl Gustav Kempf, Vice Admiral Fritz Josef Bittenfield, Vice Admiral Ernst Mecklinger, Vice Admiral Wolfgang Mittermeier, Vice Admiral Oskar von Royenthal. A lot of people.
I found one of those images that's just like a chart of like, here's the character from the original OVA, here's what they look like in DNT, and I might totally like different. Well, not only that, but we just might want to pull that up just for future references' sake. When we see a character that we don't 100% remember, we're like, oh wait, no, that's that guy from DNT.
I remember Royenthal because he's voiced by Norio Wakamoto.
Sure. That is a good reason to remember somebody.
Also, he and Mittermeier seem to get more screen time than other.
I definitely get this feeling that those two are going to be sort of like, to speak to the FPA side, kind of like the Cazellnu or the Frederica, like maybe B team or C team, like sidecast that get more screen time than the others.
Yeah.
Speaking of generals, not a general yet, but in episode 4, just real quick, we were also introduced to Oberstein. Lieutenant? Was it Lieutenant Oberstein?
I forget his rank.
Well, anyways, we were introduced to
Paul von Oberstein.
Yes, Paul von Oberstein, who
his robo eyes,
his robo Terminator eyes, which he has because, as he states in a throwaway line, that he is lucky that the Empire now supports such cybernetic enhancements, because had he been born in the era of Kaiser Rudolph, during the inferior genes exclusion law, he would have likely been euthanized as an infant. And you know what? We don't know a lot about Kaiser Rudolph or his inferior genes exclusion law.
But I don't know that any of us supports eugenics.
Especially not when it is fucking titled the inferior genes exclusion law. That is a hell of a title to call your eugenics law.
That's not even like using a euphemism or something.
No, like you could see a euphemism like the Better Eugenics Act, or the furtherment of humankind
Right.
act.
We're just
But
trying to get rid of like
but when you were saying
genetic
exclusively,
diseases.
yes, we are excluding these genes from the gene pool. That's oh boy,
A lot.
Empire has
We'll get
some
back to
shit going on.
Oberstein in episode 6.
Yes. Anyway, so back to episode 5. So this 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 delegation by Reinhard, I think, is kind of a twofold political play. Because just like people accuse Reinhard of, rising through the tops thanks to nepotism,
Right.
there is definitely a lot of talk amongst
same goes for his squad.
second in command. Yes, there's a lot of people in Reinhard's squad who are like, "Oh, Kircheis, wasn't he Reinhard's childhood friend? Very convenient or very nice that he has that cushy number 2 spot."
Right.
And I think in many ways Reinhard is specifically setting up Kircheis to prove himself.
Yeah.
It speaks to
I feel
both.
like a lot of Reinhardt's actions in the show so far have been specifically to like stick it to the man.
Very much so.
Prove
Yeah.
himself as quote unquote worthy of the position.
Yes, I think many of Reinhardt's actions are basically, attempts to prove his legitimacy as a general, a strategist, as somebody deserving of the high position that he's been given.
But specifically, I don't think it doesn't come from a position of I need to prove myself. It comes from a position of like I'm gonna do so good that you can't say anything.
Yes, totally.
There's the difference there, I think.
Yeah, it's very much the platonic ideal of the results will speak for themselves sort of thing. That Reinhard is saying, I don't need to play your petty politics game. I don't need to.
I'm above you.
Yes, that I don't need to. I don't need to lick your ass. I don't need to do any of that shit. Like, you hate me, and guess what? You're gonna keep hating me because I'm gonna keep winning fights, and there's nothing you can do to stop me. And
my subordinates are gonna keep winning fights.
Right. Also, they don't really get into it here as much, but they do mention that all of Reinhardt's generals come from lower tier nobility or even commoners. And
yes.
Once again, this perhaps speaks to Reinhardt in some ways putting his money where his mouth is, saying, I have chosen my top generals because they are the best of the best. Not because they have the best last name, not because they have the most prestigious lineage, but because they show results in the field. Now, they haven't technically shown results in the field because we've only just met them, but we are led to believe that.
Yes.
So, and I do find it funny, though, that despite that, they still question Kircheis. Like, I think it speaks to something about power structures being very, not fluid, but they echo throughout the highest and lowest ends of the hierarchy.
Right.
It's very much that idea of, even if you're low class, if you have somebody even you can look down on.
Okay. Yeah. Now I understand.
It gives you a sense of place, and I do find it interesting that these are all men that would have chafed under another leader's command who would not recognize their talents, still questioning Kircheis's capability. But thankfully,
hey, Kircheis gets it done.
Yeah, Kircheis gets it done. He goes over to the Kastrop Rebellion and fucking
tells him to surrender.
Yeah, Kircheis being the not as wonderful as Yang, but still very very decent boy that he is basically, hey, surrender and I will spare you, and you will be tried according to the laws of the Empire. Which maybe wasn't the right line to say, because Maximilian Kastrop knows what the Empire does to traitors.
Right.
So, as good as Kircheis' word might have been, offering mercy.
I do kind of see the point of view of Kastrop here. Of
the real politic of, oh, no, I'm not actually going to get a fair trial, is maybe the one bit of clarity that man has during this episode. That speaks to, for all of Kircheis' good intentions and goodwill, like, Kircheis can say all these good, decent things, but because
the
of the system.
reality of their situation.
Yes, the reality of the system, the political system that they live under, means that, frankly, a fair trial is unlikely.
Yep.
And so, obviously, he doesn't. And this is where we are now introduced to the concept of Zephyr particles.
Yeah, so Kastrop's planet has this chain, the Artemis necklace defensive tech, which looks to be just like a string of minis or loans in a ring
Something
around
like
the planet.
That, yeah.
I said it looked like the G Gundam ring.
Yeah, I could see that.
But apparently Zephyr particles are extremely explosive.
Yes.
So they just shoot a ton into the atmosphere. And
yes.
because of the Artemis necklace's own gravitational field, it all collects around the ring and blows the whole thing to pieces when it fires.
Yeah, it's basically the equivalent of like lighting a match in a room filled with gas. And it works pretty spectacularly. The Artemis necklace is completely neutralized, which, boy, if it's that easy to do it to that, I sure do wonder about the FPA.
I mean, they bring that up.
Yes. Yeah, well, yes. We can just talk about that now. Yes. At the very end of this episode, Fazan, Rubinsky and his aide are talking about, Kircheis' stunning victory at the Kastrop Rebellion.
His aide asks, do you think we should tell the Alliance that there's such a weakness in their technology? And Agent Rubinsky says, well, who do you think told the Empire that weakness was there?
Yeah, it's very, once again, Fazan is definitely playing both sides, and even though,
we're setting up this, like, glaring weakness in the FPA's final line of defense this early on.
Yeah, the fact that they are foreshadowing this in episode fucking 5, like, at some point, I expect that if the Empire ever gets close enough to the FPA capital planet, that I'm not even sure it's gonna be a fight, because if they're foreshadowing that this far in advance.
Speaking of foreshadowing, we did get the conversation between Kircheis and Anaros this episode as well.
Yes, we definitely get that episode where Anaros and Kircheis have a moment alone, and not both necessarily, Kircheis doesn't technically, admit to it, but Anaros recognizes that, look, I love Reinhard, but let's be honest, he's a little hot-headed.
As far without you.
Yes, he would not have gotten as far as he had without you. He needs you. Even if he doesn't always say it, he needs you. And Kircheis, you could be all nice, and you could say, oh, but I also need Lord Reinhard. No, let's be honest, Reinhard needs you way more than you need him.
The line I wrote down here is, my brother is not an adult like you are.
Yes, it's a fantastic line that speaks to a thing I wanted to talk about episode 4, which is the thing I like about the Reinhard backstory is I think a part of me wants to believe that Reinhard has not changed that much since his backstory.
Yeah.
The only thing that's really changed is he's gotten better at hiding it, as he's grown older, as he's become an adult, adult in age. All that's really changed is he's gotten better at hiding his impulses. And some of that is probably thanks to Kircheis as a moderating element, as the man at his ear saying, my lord, that's not a great idea. And the fact that Kircheis is the only person that can, basically do that.
Yeah, who Reinhard will actually ask for his opinion and also listen to it.
Right, that's the thing, And so, we're basically, we get a moment where Anaros basically says... Yeah, go ahead.
It's in, episode, 2, where he says, shall we push the offensive, Kircheis says, how about we take a break and let the men rest? And Reinhard says, yes, that's a good idea, actually.
Yeah, no, it's that part of... They have that good dynamic where, if Reinhard is, the rising star tactical genius, then Kircheis is definitely the heart, the one that remembers that these wars are not fought purely by numbers, they're fought by men, men and women who are, manning the turrets, piloting the ships, managing the logistics, all that stuff. But we basically get a line that also perhaps foreshadows at things where Aneros basically asks Kircheis to save Reinhard from his own ruin.
Yes.
Even though Reinhard is ambitious, wildly ambitious, and he has the skills to back it up, that there may come a day when Reinhard will become not only lose his way, but become his own worst enemy. And Kircheis must be there to stop it from happening. And we get a very ominous line where Kircheis says to Aneros, "I promise to do so, even if it means sacrificing myself." And boy.
Okay, so what's the pool on when that's going to happen? Episode 60, episode 70?
I don't know. That's the thing. I truly don't know. Like, this show has been... Like, I don't know if the show is going to pull some Game of Thrones shit. Like, what if Kircheis fucking bites it in, like, episode 20? Like...
That would be insane.
Right? But could it happen? That's a thing. Like, could this show then revolve around, like...
Oh, boy.
Who knows? That's the thing.
I genuinely don't know.
Like, I don't think it will I don't think it'll happen that early, but... Now that Kircheis has put the thought on the table, now we are forced to consider it,
every time, this could be the time.
Right. In the same way that we all constantly notice how conspicuous it is that Yang disappears from the end of the ending sequence.
Oh, boy. I don't even want to think about that, man.
We also try very hard not to think about, because Yang is our precious boy, and we cannot even consider the possibility. But anyways, yes, we are given this idea that Reinhard is indeed a great man. He is a powerful man, a smart man, and driven. But he is also deeply flawed, and he has done a great job so far projecting this cool, calm, collected exterior that radiates this confidence that he is always in command, that he always has a handle on the situation.
Unflappable.
But these two episodes 4 and 5 help us understand that not that it's necessarily a front, not that necessarily Reinhard would crumble the instant that he gets exposed, but that Kircheis is vital to maintaining that facade.
Yeah.
And
so Kircheis blows up the Artemis necklace, and
then
Maximilian Kastrop freaks out because let's just say that he knows that he won't get a fair trial.
And then everybody gets in on the stab party. We call them Space Caesar. Sure, he acts more like Space Caligula, but the way he goes out is very Caesar-like, where everybody has decided we've had enough of your shit, and just start picking up knives and shanking him.
I think it really reaches borderline comedy when his hot lady courtesans pick up their dinner knives and start stabbing them as well.
It's really good. It's really good. It's
pretty good.
It's a hell of a thing.
And everyone else says, yeah, we put him down, we're going to get a fair shot, right?
Sure. And
then,
of course,
says, yes, of course.
Yes, and Kircheis has a throwaway line at the end about, hey, no looting, no raping, none of that shit. You'll be punished by summary execution if you do, which, it's one of those things of, I very much am glad he said that, but also, without actually seeing the occupation of the planet, we're just forced to assume that Kircheis, or more that we were forced to assume that the Empire is just a well-run enough military, a disciplined enough military that shit holds true. Because, you know what? A lot of German and Japanese commanders during World War II also claimed that they told their soldiers not to go raping and looting, and a whole lot of raping and looting still happened. So, you know what?
Yep.
We'll just take Kircheis' command at face value and assume that, he's doing a good job. And
he reports back to Reinhard.
Yeah, he reports back to Reinhard. A stunning success. Kircheis feeling a bit bad that
apologizes that it was not a truly bloodless operation.
Right. Kastrop couldn't be captured alive, but then we get this really wonderful moment where Reinhard is just kind of rattling off a bunch of, like a bunch of praises and a bunch of like just statements to Kircheis, and Kircheis, just replies to all of them, yes sir, no sir, an affirmation,
Yes.
until finally Reinhard says, "You're a good man, Kircheis," and
Kircheis says nothing in response to that.
He's met with silence.
And no, and like this is not given extra attention to or anything in the dialogue, but man, what a good
Oh, it's fantastic.
character bit. It's so good.
It's very good. And that's the thing. That's the thing that Legend of the Galactic Heroes does well.
I absolutely immediately understand.
Right.
Kircheis right there.
And not only that, but now you also clearly understand the relationship the two have.
Yes.
And that in many ways, this was perhaps Reinhard coming the closest to ever explicitly admitting that Kircheis, you mean so much to me. I need you by my side. And that's kind of the thing. Like we are giving this moment more attention than the show did itself, and it speaks to the restraint of Legend of the Galactic Heroes to let these moments linger without drawing attention to them. A lesser anime would have then had Reinhard like mentally, have a mental internal monologue of, "Oh, Kircheis didn't say anything in response." That means like. It's a lesser, yes. A lesser anime would have resorted to that, but Legend of the Galactic Heroes, I am never ever going to be like one of those fucking that Rick and Morty copy pasta where it's like, oh, in all fairness, you need a fairly high IQ to understand Legend of the Galactic Heroes. You see, but I will say, I really do love that Legend of Galactic Heroes doesn't insult its viewers' intelligence. It leaves moments to themselves and lets you come to your own conclusions on what they mean. And with that, we kind of end our foray or our time with the Empire and return back to Heinesen with episode 6.
Episode 6, Knights of the Rose.
Knights of the Rose, where Yang Wenli, if you've forgotten, has been tasked with the taking of Iserlohn Fortress, the impregnable, what's the word? Choke point of the Empire, that is held strong against 6 separate invasions by the FPA.
So consequently, he sleeps in.
He sleeps in on the
almost
day of his...
late to his own promotion.
Yes. Yang, bless Yang, shows up fucking late to his own promotion.
Doesn't want to get. It's 10:30. He doesn't want to get up. It's too early.
And we get this fantastic moment where Yang is asked to give a speech to the newly formed 13th Fleet, and the best he can manage,
like 10 seconds after arriving at the ceremony.
And followed by a rather awkward silence where Yang's just like, guys,
if you're dead, you can't drink good tea.
Right. To quote the line, we should fight because we can only drink good tea while we're living. So let's not die in battle. And as we see,
that we don't die.
Goes over pretty well with the troops, who are like, hey, that's a pretty sensible.
They're mostly survivors from the Battle of Astarte.
Yeah. Basically, the 13th Fleet is basically just the reconsolidated dregs of Astarte and other
that Yang led to
shattered
survival.
Fleets.
So
and so we kind of see that. The troops actually take pretty well to this rather frank, practical speech, even if we kind of see on Job Trudnick's face that he's a little miffed. But you know what? Anytime that Job Trudnick is a little pissed off is fine by me. So
absolutely.
We are also introduced to who seems to be kind of Yang's main kind of like logistics staff guy, Cazellnu, or depending on the translation. Cazellnu, you can definitely see, how that translation might have ended up there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we're gonna have this persistent issue of
I think
European names being translated through Japanese
back into English, and it's a thing of we know that Cazellnu is probably the more accurate, translation, but
the subs we're using say a specific thing, and we for just the sake of consistency,
we're just gonna call the poor dude Cazellnu. So, basically Cazellnu's like, hey, Young, I'm I'm your man. Like, you need a thing, like, come ask me. And while they're having that conversation, we see they're having their conversation kind of a loft area of the officers' cafe, and they're looking down and they see a little altercation happens between
Yes.
some FPA, bigwigs and a waitress who has unfortunately spilled some coffee. And
Oh no! How dare you disrespect my uniform and thus the
yeah,
country
these
by
generals are
spilling
being
coffee on it?
being real shitheads. Like, oh, you spilled coffee on my uniform. Are you a traitor? Do you hate this country? It's like, fuck off with that shit. But then we are introduced to the Rosen Ritter, or the Knights of the Rose, led by Shenkop.
Yes.
I forget his full name at this very moment, but we are introduced to this kind of rugged man of a man who basically just walks up to these generals.
I believe they say that it's like a close combat unit.
Yes. So to better explain, yes, the Rosen Ritter, or the Knights of the Rose, are a FPA close combat unit comprised entirely of the children of Empire exiles and deserters.
Let's see here, Colonel Walter von Schenkop.
Yes. And so, because of their status as the children of former Empire citizens, they are kind of treated with a great degree of distrust. But Shenkop don't give a fuck, and he threatens that he's gonna start beating up this whole fucking bar if they try to start shit. And we kind of already, I kind of appreciate the scene being in here versus it being absent in D&T, because it helps immediately establish that Shenkop is obviously the kind of man that the young wants in his camp.
Yeah.
So
immediately after being told that no unit can control these firebrand of a squad, Young says, "Put them on my fleet."
Yes. He asks Cazellnu for 1 captured Empire ship, 100 Empire uniforms, and the services of the Rosen Ritter. And perhaps you could start to see where things are going with Yang's plan to take Iserlohn. And so we are also introduced to Yang's new staff officer, Frederica Greenhill. And we are
flashback to the events that caused Yang to be dubbed the hero of El Facil.
Yes. And once again, what's kind of great is, just like the hero of Astarte, the reason that Yang is called the hero of El Facil is because he saved people's lives. He
evacuated millions of civilians during
before
a battle.
During a battle. 3 million lives were saved at El Facil thanks to Yang's actions. One of them being apparently a young Frederica Greenhill, drawn extremely poorly in these remastered frames.
Yeah, I guess the version we're watching is probably from some newer DVD or Blu-ray release, and so I guess I lost the frames of this flashback because they're all clearly drawn in a more modern style.
That doesn't look nearly as good.
It clashes a lot.
Yeah, it's a Dragon Ball Z Kai situation where the frames in this flashback, it's pretty rough to say the least. But we do get kind of we're introduced to this flashback where we see that Yang, I guess, left a pretty large impression on Frederica when she was a child.
I hate coffee. I wish you'd given me tea.
Yes. Where we also learned that Yang maybe said some things to Frederica that he doesn't remember 10 years later, but
yeah.
Look, you're not going to remember every single conversation you've had with every single person.
It's true.
In the last 10 years, whether those words had a large impact on somebody else. To you, that was Tuesday. And but yes, so we're introduced to Frederica. She seems nice. We don't really get a feel immediately for.
There was a bit more of her, or at least
where she sees that dude. Yeah.
Yes, the traditional introduction of a female character in a male-dominated environment.
Right.
If you want to prove that they're quote unquote tough.
Yeah, you have them judo flip one of the men.
Yep.
But doesn't happen here because the Rosen Ritter are not nearly as confrontational in this version of the OVA of the story. But I guess again, I think it's a difference of DNT only had 12 episodes to work with.
Yeah.
They realized, hey, we got to get these characters like up to speed fast. Like we need to introduce things that will immediately flesh them out. Whereas even though Frederica is kind of a, doesn't really do much this episode,
She's
we also
got time.
she has time. She has time to be developed as a character.
We're introduced to Young's staff, much like we were introduced to Reinhardt's staff.
And equally hard to remember set of people.
Yes. I can say I hardly remember any of them.
The only one I can really remember is Edwin Fisher, the cool old guy of the group. The rare breed of FPA general who seems A, competent, and B, has a pretty good head on his shoulders.
Yeah.
And I think they said that Yang designated Edwin Fisher to handle like fleet formation for the 13th Fleet.
Okay.
So like he's in charge of, how they're set up prior to battle.
Makes sense.
There are a few others, but the important one for this episode is primarily Shenkop.
Yep.
Shenkop, who has been not only has joined the fleet, but is invited to sit at the table with the rest of Yang's staff, where we are treated to a fantastic conversation between the two.
Yes.
Where Shenkop basically
took place 101 in DNT.
Yes. But
here it's in front of the whole staff,
which definitely gives it a different dynamic. Because I think it's easy to. Well, let's get into it first. So Shenkop basically asks Yang, "Why me? And why do you need me?" And
Yep.
And Yang just basically straight up says, "My entire plan hinges on you." And Shenkop's like, "Did you know that my unit has a long and storied tradition of every single leader of the Rosen Ritter has either died in battle or deserted back to the Empire." And asks Yang, "Why
would
what
you
will
take
you
such a
do?"
chance?
Yes, or what will you do if I become the 7th deserter? And Yang just admits,
I guess my plan will just fail and we'll all die.
Yeah, Yang's just like, and then we're fucked, and I'm gonna die. And I think to get back to it, so there's an interesting dynamic here where it's easier to admit you're vulnerable to one person.
Yeah.
I think it says a lot about Yang's, attitude and who he is as a person, that he can admit to his entire staff that this plan is very vulnerable. I need Shenkop, and if he doesn't help me out, if he betrays me, if he fails, we will all die. And then Shenkop asks, "All right, Yang, so you need me. Why do you need me?
Yeah.
What are your motives? What's the grand plan for Rear Admiral Yang Wenli?" And
this is such a great bit.
Yes.
Some of my favorite stuff.
Yeah, do you wanna go for it?
Okay. Yang basically outlines the plan and says, as long as we Shenkop asks him, "Are you doing this because you want to get promotion? Are you doing this for the glory of being the first one to take Iserlohn?" And Yang says, "No, I will retire if this mission is successful, and just live off my pension
and read my history books."
Yep, read my history books.
And then there's the what a fantastic. Oh my god! What a good conversation.
Goes on to explain.
Yeah.
Capturing Iserlohn would not be the end of war, of course, but it will put FPA in a favorable enough position that perhaps they could negotiate a peace treaty.
Yeah.
And they said, "Well, aren't you a fool? That there's no way that would be a permanent peace." And we get to the great line: "There's never been a permanent peace in all of human history, but there have been plenty of ages with decades of peace." And my audacious hope is that perhaps we can enter an age with a few decades of peace.
Yeah, it's tremendous. It both speaks to Yang's kind of tragically pragmatic understanding of human history, but also actually how idealistic he is.
Yeah.
That he is willing to, or more that how much he is willing to give for so little. Yang is willing to take this hugely daring mission, this do the impossible, something that has never been achieved in the history of the FPA. And he's willing to do it because if it buys even a couple decades of peace, even if that's just
that's invaluable.
Even if it's just a couple decades of children not having to grow up and become soldiers,
that's everything for those children.
Yeah, and then this is a battle worth fighting, and it also it's that good reminder that yes, war is bad, but sometimes it is worth fighting for. Sometimes there can be a cause that is worth fighting and dying for, but it must be undertaken with the greatest of responsibility. And Yang understands this on a level that I don't think any other character in this show understands.
And then Shinkov says to him, either you're the most honest man in the galaxy, or you're the greatest sophist since Kaiser Rudolph.
Yes, it's so good. Like, yeah, it also admittedly recognized that, look, Yang also, I don't want to say he's up his own ass, because Yang always puts his money where his mouth is. He always translates his words into actions. But also, to the idle observer, Yang sure talks a lot about...
talks a big game.
He talks a very big game. And I think it speaks to how much we love him, that we want to see him pull it off.
Absolutely.
And so that kind of... not yet, because... I was about to say that
introduced to the commanders of Iserlohn.
Yeah, we were introduced to the vice-commanders of Iserlohn Fortress, Siecht and Stockhausen, who very much don't get along.
Nope.
But in some ways, their competitive nature has been what allowed them to successfully defend Iserlohn Fortress all these years. I mean, that and its giant-ass Death Star cannon. So,
yep.
At the very end of this episode, they're, being shitheads to each other, and they receive a distress signal from a lone Empire ship that is being pursued by the FPA. And Stockhausen being... Wait, shit.
I forget.
Oh,
sorry.
Man. Oh, boy. Let's just go with Stockhausen for now.
They're a set. It's fine.
And look,
I'm sure it's fine.
If you want to correct us in the comments, sure, but also, look, we will probably figure out as soon as this is done recording which one was which. But anyway, so Stockhausen's like, hey, our boys are out there. We can't fucking leave them out there. We gotta rescue them. And Siecht's like, no, you idiot. This is weird. Or not even.
I think Stockhausen controls the garrison or controls the fortress, and Siecht manages the garrison fleet.
Okay, so Siecht is the one. So Siecht is the one that goes.
We must go out there.
Okay, all right. Well, all right then. Siecht is the one that's like, hey, we got to get out there.
Oh, I look.
Look, man.
We'll start with S.
I know.
They're both the commanders of Iserlohn.
Yes, that's the problem. All right, like, let's just pick one. All right. So Stockhausen's like, hey, we got to get out there. We got to go save the fleet. Or save that ship. And then
Paul von Oberstein is here.
Serving under Stockhausen.
Hey, maybe that's a bad idea. This is clearly a decoy or...
Yo, this is fishy as hell.
The only person in the entire fortress.
Yeah. And in many ways, maybe Oberstein is actually the Yang of the Empire. The, evil, misanthropic Yang of the Empire. And Siecht agrees, but we can kind of tell that Siecht doesn't necessarily agree with Oberstein because he actually believes it's a trap, but because he hates Stockhausen so much, and he's petty enough, he'll take any win he can get on the other.
I really like that, actually, because just enough is established that you understand that he's agreeing with the sensible thing, not because it's a sensible thing, but because it sticks it to the other guy.
Yes, yeah, and it very much shows that, how much of human history has been founded in the actions of people acting out of pure spite. But yeah, so Stockhausen takes the garrison fleet and sallies forth to rescue him. And of course, this Empire ship is none other than the one that Yang requisitioned at the beginning of the episode, being commanded by none other than Shenkop, who is currently wearing a pretty convincing disguise of an Empire officer on the run.
Yes.
And that's where the episode ends, and we're left wondering, can this operation succeed? Can Yang take Iserlohn against all odds?
Until we see dudes in the next episode preview
And yeah, so
cutting
we
dudes
don't.
up with battle axes.
So we don't always talk about the next. I don't know if we'll always talk about the next episode previews, but holy shit, the next episode preview is the wildest fucking shit I've ever seen in this show. Like, I have seen gifs.
They've got laser guns.
Yeah, and they got axes.
Yeah, I guess so.
I
thought it was silly when Amuro and Char start sword fighting.
Yeah,
but
this is like, oh man, it's so good. It's like I've seen gifs of later episodes of the original Legend of the Galactic Heroes that kind of like gestured towards this like melee combat focus, but it's very good. I suspect it has something to do with Zephyr particles since they were introduced in this set of 3 episodes.
And we did watch DNT.
Yes, we did. But my point is, they didn't have axes in DNT.
Yeah,
they weren't chopping dudes up with axes, man. That's
hell of a thing.
But we should save that for the next episode.
I'm looking forward to it.
Definitely looking forward to it. So, our recap ran a little bit longer than usual, but Iro, you kind of have any general thoughts about this set of 3 episodes overall?
I think we covered most of it during.
I say we have. If you have any like general thoughts about any takeaways from these 3 episodes.
I really want to see something flap the unflappable Reinhard.
Yes. I think I agree as well. Like, all right, to all you fans listening out there, to all you Legend of the Galactic Heroes fans, all you Reinhard stands out there that are like, man, these guys are really down on Reinhard. Understand that dude belongs to a faction that enacted a law called the Inferior Genes Exclusion Law, but B, just Reinhard hasn't really shown us that much yet. And so if he truly does become this grand character that y'all love so much eventually, give us some time. We'll get there eventually.
But for now,
but for now, I will say I did enjoy the flashback episodes. I feel like it's very easy to fuck those up. I feel like it's very easy to, kind of not reveal too much, but explain too much in a flashback, But I think these did a good job of helping us understand the foundation of Reinhard's motivations and also that his weaknesses. And his reliance on Kircheis.
Corollary to what I said, I think I need to see something go really wrong for both Reinhard and for Yang. Because
yes. See them at their worst.
Even though Yang's always been in a bad situation, also everything he does saves the day.
Well, it's not only that, but also every bad situation he's ever been in has been caused by someone else. I think it would be I'm very much looking forward to the episodes where both Yang and Reinhard are in the deep shit because of their own actions.
Yes,
I think
absolutely.
That's going to be really interesting because I definitely want to see how those two react. And
I just say bring up Reinhard first because that follows more naturally out of what we've been shown so far.
Yes. I think because Reinhard has been shown to be more conventionally unflappable, I agree. I also, as a result, want to see him fail more. If just to see how he reacts to it, because look, it's hard to root for somebody who's invincible, it's hard to root for somebody who is so seemingly unbeatable. And I think, I truly do think that our opinions of Reinhard will probably improve massively if we get to see how he acts when he's up against the ropes.
Yeah. And see what he actually intends to do with his position.
Yes, that too. Like right now we are currently seeing Reinhard the General, but
what's he do once he's at the top?
Right, but what we're all curious to see is Reinhard
close to the top as is.
Yeah, we want to see what Reinhard the leader is. Who is Reinhard the leader of not just a military but an entire nation? Civilians included. Is he as capable of a statesman as he is a general? Is a question that I think we're quite curious to see.
Maybe we'll
Additionally,
find out in 30 episodes,
yes,
40 episodes,
yes.
50 episodes.
Additionally, I just want to bring up real quick. Fazan still up to some shady shit.
Yeah.
Definitely curious to see how that goes because. Go ahead.
It almost feels like they're on the Empire side at this point. Like,
yeah, well, that's also the thing, right?
As much as they talk about, we're gonna play both sides, but everything they've done so far has seemingly benefited only the Empire.
And maybe that has something to do with, as one of a commenter explained to us, is that Fazan is technically a kind of like a pseudo vassal state of the Empire.
Oh, okay.
So they technically answer to the Empire, but my understanding is that they are allowed to be economically self-sufficient. The idea is basically technically you answer to the Empire, but beyond basic lip service, you're allowed to run your economy and your country, your planet, however you wish.
So how long until the Empire says we're just going to send our fleets to your place?
Right. So the thing that I'm definitely curious about now is. Yes, I agree. Fazan, so for all its claims of being like, hey, we're playing both sides, has kind of just been helping out the Empire, and maybe that's because they consider the FPA to be in a stronger position for now.
Yeah.
Like I could definitely see it be a case where the moment the Empire shows some weakness, Fazan, but the moment that the FPA shows some weakness, Fazan will do some things to tip the scale back. And
yeah, well, I suppose we'll have to see.
Yes, I suppose we'll just have to see. So
common refrain.
yes. So once again, Iro, thank you for coming along on this journey with me. I'm glad we're still doing this. 6 episodes in, we are now 2% through the Legend of the Galactic Heroes.
Well, and we may not have a chance for more for a while, but
for a little bit, but rest assured to all you listeners out there, we are still fully on this ride. I think I can speak for the both of us when we say we fucking love this show. It's just doing all these great, cool things, and it's the thing. I just want to see every aspect of it. I want to see everything.
More. I want to see more. I need to see how this goes.
Exactly.
What's gonna happen?
Exactly. And so, all right, some basic housekeeping. So, once again, you can read all our content and listen to our podcasts on theglorioblog.com. You can follow us on Twitter at theglorioblog. We are now on iTunes, so you can go there and listen to the podcast.
I believe it is just the same feed as our normal podcast.
It's just the same feed as our old podcast. Maybe we'll figure that out one day. Like and subscribe, leave a good review. I don't fucking know.
Hit
tell your friends, tell your enemies.
Button. That's what they say on YouTube now, right?
Sure.
I'll try to get this up on YouTube again.
Yes. Also, we're on YouTube, so you can find us at what's our YouTube channel called?
That's a really good question.
Oh boy, we're doing a fantastic job here. If you Google Legend of the GLORIO Heroes YouTube, you'll probably find us.
Oh boy.
One other note. In case this is new for you, in case
maybe you want to watch Legend of the Galactic Heroes.
Yes, you can watch Legend of the Galactic Heroes on the streaming service HiDive.
Yep.
HiDive has been doing a fantastic job, kind of
cutting out the old catalog.
Yeah, grabbing all the old niche shows.
We got like Aura Battler, Dunbine, and
Votongs, and also good old shows, or at least I think they are. They got good openings, and if you got a good opening, then you're probably a good show, right? That's how that works.
I don't know.
Who knows? Tune in 2 years from now when we finish Legend of the Glorious Heroes.
We watched Darling in the Franxx.
Okay, fine. Maybe a good opening is not always the indication of a good show, but who knows? Maybe in a couple years from now, when we're done with Legend of the Galactic Heroes, we'll hit up HiDive, and we'll do our next podcast. Sons, I can't come up with a good. I'm sorry, I can't come up with a good Votom's pun off the top of my. I don't know. Yeah, Aura Battler GLORIO. Would that be the name of our podcast? I don't know.
Who knows?
It doesn't really work as well, does it? But
no, it really doesn't. It's fine.
Whatever. We got a couple years to figure it out.
Yeah, we got a while.
In the meantime, you can watch Legend of Galactic Heroes on HiDive.
Yep.
And
listen to our podcasts
on HiDive.
GLORIOblog.com.
Oh, yes. No. I already took care of that. We're good.
Tell your friends.
But yes. So, with all that said, once again, thank you for listening. I hope our takes were at least decent. I hope they weren't too uninformed, but at the same time, we don't really know that much about this show. You know, we're still taking it all in one step at a time,
Yep.
and
Just, each episode's another page in the books of history.
yeah. And until next time, I'll see you amongst the sea of stars.